So a few days ago, I posted on my YouTube community section asking you guys, my community of filmmakers and photographers, what are your biggest photography mistakes? We hopefully all are a community trying to get better, so I thought I would share some of those mistakes directly from you guys, and then also of course share some of my own towards the end of the video. By the end of this video, I want you to become a better photographer. First one we have here is from Kip Jackson II? Kip Jackson 2? Maybe Kip Jackson II. Investing too much in gear and watching too much YouTube. So let's break these down separately here. First of all is investing too much in gear. Maybe that's not necessarily actually investing too much money, but that also might just be being too bothered about gear. And that definitely came up quite regularly in and around all of the comments. Lots of people were talking about gear, and we will of course come and talk about those later. As a beginner photographer, you do not need to spend too much money on gear. You can just get started with a relatively cheap-ish camera, maybe buy a very basic lens, or even buy something like a decent point-and-shoot camera. You will, I guarantee, get better from when you buy that camera at the beginning towards the end. And then secondly, watching too much YouTube. Now I probably shouldn't tell you this here on the channel as I make a photography video, but watching too much YouTube, too many tips, too many tutorials is not always the best way to learn. Personally, I'm a bit biased. I think it's a fantastic way to learn, but you always have to put it in practice. You're never going to get better just by watching a tutorial. Maybe watch a tutorial, go out, shoot, and hopefully that process will make you better. Next comment we have here is from Flexis. I really hope that I'm not just absolutely cannoning everyone's names here. Trying to avoid mistakes. Failure is your best teacher. Now this is a super good one. You have to repeat. Only way you're going to get better is to constantly iterate and constantly improve on the work that you are making. And that ties directly into the next comment from Rigel Garg. And that is not practicing enough. By not practicing your craft, by not just going out and shooting, you are just genuinely limiting the amount of improvement that you can have as a photographer. If you think about anything, think about professional athletes, professional filmmakers, crazy mathematicians, all of these people have one thing in common, and that is the fact that they practice for hours and hours again. Lots of making mistakes, lots of failing and trying again. The second part of Rigel's comment is not shooting raw. I hate myself for that. He says, oh, and deleting my old photos. I so regret doing that. Now this is a super good one. Obviously not shooting raw. It's a massive deal to shoot raw. You obviously can shoot great photos in JPEG, there's nothing to stop you doing that, but just shooting in RAW gives you that much more flexibility. If the goal is to create a great image, why wouldn't you give yourself that extra bit of flexibility by shooting RAW and enabling you to just have that much more control over the final shot? And yeah, absolutely, keeping your older photographs is a super good thing to be able to like go back and just look at your progression. This is not necessarily, you know, a tip that's going to apply to everyone, but some people that might be quite a big thing for you to be able to go back and look at them down the line later. This one is for photography by Rovin. He says, I'd say gear obsession, especially at the beginning. Now I'm definitely guilty of this still. It's like I have the correct gear, the gear that is definitely able to deal with pretty much all of the projects that I work on. However, I still get gear envy. I'm shooting on an absolutely incredible cinema camera here, the Canon C200. This thing is just an absolute dream. I was looking at this thing for ages, and I'm still looking at the Canon C70 because I think that it's going to be significantly better than this camera. I can still go and probably create anything that I want to create with the C70 with the C200. So it's not always necessarily the right answer to go and buy more gear or get really fixated on gear. The only time I would say that you need to be looking at gear is with lenses to be able to help you to get looks and feels that you just wouldn't be able to get with another piece of camera gear. This one is from Sklem. Buying presets instead of looking at styles I liked and trying to create them using my own inspired look. I think we've all been guilty of this, especially in the sort of Instagram era of just creating, everyone just creating these gorgeous, beautiful images. We go online on Instagram, go and look at their presets and think, if I buy that, my images might look like theirs, and it's just not the case. You need to, over time, develop your own style, develop your own feel. Actually, the best ever presets I've bought are like super subtle ones that just do a tiny little bit. Whenever I bought slightly more expensive or really creative presets, they end up just kind of looking like trash. This one is from Mr. Daniel Walters. My biggest mistake was not seeking out other photographers to speak to honestly about all of the difficulties and the successes about starting out. I saw everyone else as my competition, when in reality, there are so many niches and markets and customers out there, it's rarely the case. It can even lead to referrals for inquiries they get for the work they don't do. Also, talking openly about rates and how to deal with customers is nerve-wracking at first, but it's so liberating once you get over that hurdle. You can tell I'm pretty passionate about this subject. Daniel, I am extremely passionate about this subject as well. I totally agree with all of your points. I think it's a really interesting comment for everyone to be aware of. As photographers, as online creators, we should really build up our network and make friends with other people. Just yesterday, I was shooting with Mike Chudley in Chinatown in London. It was such a great day. We had just a really good time creating images. And this it's not a competitive thing. It's simply two like-minded people getting together. And I've actually got quite a lot of freelance work that way, exactly like you were saying. So thank you so much for the comment, because I think it's really interesting. Here we have Danny Graham. For me, it's about having public shoot anxiety, not wanting to take my camera out because of the attention that it can bring, people looking at you the entire time out of curiosity, or my brain telling me that others will think, tourist. He goes on to saying that he just struggles kind of with people staring at him and what they're thinking of him whilst he's taking photos. Danny, this is really something you're going to have to get over, yourself, unfortunately, but all I would say is you're definitely going to be focusing on this much more yourself than other people are focusing on you. There's a few just little tips that I found useful. First of all is to maybe have headphones. If you can, have headphones, maybe listen to a podcast, listen to some music as you're going around. This might help you zone out some of the other things going on and just help you zone in on your content creation. And then apart from that, really just focusing on doing it for yourself and your craft and trying to improve with every single shoot. Hopefully these things should over time help you overcome that sort of public shooting anxiety. Final comment from everyone on the channel here is from James Kelly. If you don't follow James Kelly, I'll link his YouTube channel down below. He makes some of the best product videos that I've seen online. And he says waiting for the perfect bit of gear, but also waiting for the perfect conditions to go and shoot. We see such bangers on Instagram with perfect sunrises and vistas, and when you wake up, and I know this feeling, James, he's saying that basically you wake up in England and things just do not look the same, so you just skip it. And that is a really good point. He's basically saying go out and shoot regardless. That practice, that iteration is going to make you a better photographer, and I couldn't agree with this more. I think this is like extremely good advice for any upcoming aspiring creator. Ignore the things that are online and just focus on yourself and your craft, and hopefully just getting better every single time you practice. Those were some comments from the community. Thank you so much for everyone sharing your thoughts and feelings. In terms of mistakes that I have made as a freelance photographer, videographer, someone who actually does this for a job now, there are a few things, little pieces of wisdom that hopefully will make you a better photographer. First of all, and these two tips are kind of a bit related, is that I kind of got really into a trap of wanting to only shoot for Instagram. What I mean by that is just not going out, like walking around the streets of London, taking photos just for the sake of actually taking photos. It's so easy to get into a situation where you are just expecting to just get like banging photographs every single time you go out, and it's just not going to be the case. Think of your photography and think about you and the process of taking photos as a natural progression and getting better. And the next tip that ties into that is having somewhere to post your work. Now, I'm someone who's extremely motivated by giving myself a deadline and putting things a bit sort of like hard and fast because I have to have something to share. Me making these YouTube videos is a process, and me creating videos and hopefully putting them up in a timely manner and getting better every single time that I upload. And the same thing is true for photography. So having an Instagram, having an account and a presence can be a really good thing for your photography. I would say don't always feel the need to only create for those platforms. Sometimes it's just really good to go, grab your camera, maybe on a trip or a holiday, and take some images that you are going to enjoy for the sake of actually taking those images and hopefully getting better. And that, guys, is that. Hopefully you have found this interesting or helpful. A bit of a different style of video, but really fun to get the whole community involved. Let me know your biggest photography mistake in the comments, and I'll catch you guys next week.